All right, so barreling into part two, I guess, of my today's topic. So a little disclaimer, I guess, or just not a disclaimer, but um, just to add something to what I was saying. Like, I'm in no way in like saying that you have to believe in a rapture date. Um, that we all deem to be whatever. I mean, if you want to focus on just being ready, or if you want to participate in the exercise, and make it like a fire drill moment, that might be useful. If you want to ignore it altogether, if you want to ask God about it, I mean, just do what you do in the spirit of relationship. And God reminded me of this thing that I told my mom. I was talking to my mom about stuff like this the other day, and it reminded me of it's kind of an infamous clip of a um, Mariah Carey fan from like a long time ago. It's like literally 20 years old. And I remember it was like watching footage of like fans outside of her concert venue or wherever she was at. And, you can hear sort of the dull roar of the crowd. Everyone's waiting. But there's one fan that stood out in particular, and she was super, super hyped up. And there's a moment during the interview where she is talking to the person who's interviewing her about like what she loves about Mariah or whatever. And she starts to hear, I guess I'm assuming she heard like the swell of voices. So she assumed like Mariah was about to come out or something, or they could see her. So she's like literally in the middle of talking, and then she suddenly just like starts going ape in the middle of the interview. So she's like, so anyway, like I love her music a lot. And she goes, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And then like nothing happens because she's not there. And then she literally just goes right back into what she was saying. And like, I mean, it's a classic. It's classic. I don't know if it went viral or anything, but it's definitely classic. And, um, that's kind of the posture that we need to have, like at best. And if you're not willing to have that posture, then um, that's upsetting. Um, like, yeah, you got to be able to, if you're going to be in the last days and be part of the end time church and believe that, like, this has got to go beyond you saying words about how you believe that. Like, like, do you really though? Because you got to be at any moment's notice ready to hear that trumpet in the middle of the day. Like, that's a big deal to be part of the end times church or be a part of the last generation. So you go, well, I don't believe, I do believe that this is the last generation. I do believe. I was like, really? Because you got to be able to go in and out of the extraordinary at any time. Because that, like, you're living in it. You're saying that if you believe that we are the last generation, you're saying that you believe that at any moment, you're going to start seeing things that you have never, ever been able to conceive in your life, and you will be changed. Even if you just believe, you say you believe the Bible and you say that you believe what Paul said about the dead and Christ rising first and then meeting the Lord in the air. You think that you're going to get from point A to point B. You're just going to rely on it happening. You're not going to do any steps to sort of believe that it's true at all. You're just going to believe it when you see it. It doesn't work like that. Especially since people are having dreams that some people see it and some don't. The non-believers are not going to be jazzed at all. Is what seems to be the gist, is that you're going to be like, it's Jesus, don't you see him? And they're going to be like, thinking you're crazy. So that tells me that God has got this thing like faith-based. He is rewarding those who believe. So that is your currency. So you can't just try to be sensible. It's like, you got to pick a lane. You can't be sensible about being a Christian, bro. Like, that's not a thing. I know it seems like a thing because of it's the 20th century or whatever, but it's really not. It's not. Um, yeah, by all means, go through your life, do the things that you have to do here, fit in, learn the language. That's not hard. You know how to be a regular person. You don't need to practice that. You need to practice this because it's not actually sensible when you get down to it. It's supernatural. It's beyond your eyes. So that's the part that you need to be practicing. So if you're stiff in that, you need to get limber. Like, we don't need to learn how to be down here and be critical and, all whatever the patterns of the day, the rationale, the paradigm, the zeitgeist, the whatever. We know how to do all that. You need to be bilingual. You need to have did that. You need to work on your other life. So God's not going to come and intervene here. Like, he is, but like, he will have expected you to be born again and know what it is to be that. So trying to think of what else I didn't really cover in the first video, but like, I guess getting back to the process of sort of taking this date in. So, and also, I guess I can put in the description box if you're interested in diving into this whole phenomenon for yourself. The account of the person who gave the date is the channel is called Seek Heavenly Things, and this has been going on for a finite period of time, but for a while. So she started posting things December 30th. So very interesting that it's just kind of been this window of time. And this is not a person who was doing anything of the sort before this happened. So all very interesting context clues. So this was a person who didn't have very much on the channel to begin with, but was doing a completely different line of work and just living their lives. And then suddenly on December 30th, started receiving messages of God and being told to post things. So this is all, God's MO. And it helps to it kind of helps to have gone through some false alarms to see what the nature of those were and how those are different. And not false alarms or just false prophets, because there's a lot of them. I'm not going to lie. I don't really spend time looking at all of them, but it is useful to sort of study them. And you kind of can't really, I will only study like proven things that came up false after the fact. I don't like to speculate who's false, because I just don't like to do that. I don't need to do that. I don't like to do that. Study the real. You don't need to go to other people's whatever and discredit them or whatever. Like, everybody's a grown up and everybody needs to use their own discernment. And I've been led down a few rabbit trails too. That's not a big deal. It happens, and you learn. You continue to learn, and you continue to get sharper, because that is sort of the I think the thing that everyone is worried about is about being deceived. It's not fun. Whatever your reasons for not wanting that to happen to you, it's not fun. But I think everyone that can agree that having it happen to you especially multiple times, you end up having information by the end of it. You end up being smarter by the end of it. So it's not like it's not worth experiencing. So the people who try to avoid it at all costs and don't even want to catch a whiff of it are like toddlers in this. So, um, I wouldn't really, somebody who is adamant about not trusting anything and not, like, I don't want to hear about how all of your stringent tactics about, like, that doesn't give me confidence. What gives me confidence is you saying, listen, I've been down this path before. This happened to me before. And this is what happened. Now I'm listening. I don't want to hear about, well, here's what I try to do to avoid everything. And I've never had a problem one time. It's like, well, then you don't know anything. That's basically what you just openly admitted. Listen, guys, I don't know anything about it. I've never been through any of this. So be like me. It's like, no, I don't want, no. So that's not even valuable to me. So I've seen a couple of false alarms, and they have their characteristics. That's not even the point, because I'm not here to convince you that it is real. I just want people to start thinking about, okay, are you sure that you really do have the discernment that you keep telling people to use? Like, just use your discernment, which is about like a throwaway phrase now. Like, I don't think that word means what you think it means. And calling things wisdom. It's like, just, use your wisdom. Like, stop using wisdom as a fill in for don't look like an idiot, because that's not what wisdom is. Wisdom is not keeping you from looking like an idiot. That's, especially when it comes to these things, like, you're going to make mistakes because you're not perfect. And this is like not an open book test, but there's different types of tests. There's tests that are testing your knowledge. There's tests that are testing your stamina. There's tests that are the whole point is a stress test to see where your breaking point is, and go, oh, we found it. So there's all types of kinds of tests. And I don't know, I'm getting off on a tangent again. Let me see. So this rapture thing. Oh, let me just pause it. Okay. So yeah. So the rapture thing. So let's say that you get all the way to the end of the information here, and you hear the information. You hear that there's the rapture is going to be tomorrow at such and such time, or whatever. You decide to take on that information. What do you do next? Well, that depends, because there is not a single right answer. We're all different, and we're all going to have different responses. I don't think God is expecting you to now go out in the street and tell people and spread the information that the rapture is, whatever and whatever. Now, obviously, there should be some impetus in, trying to get the word out. But I mean, that's the whole point of there being a rapture, or God saying that he's coming soon. the Lord is coming soon, sooner than you think, sooner than we all think. He's at the door. All of these vague, vague, vague phrases that we've been okay with. Um, yeah, it should spurn you to some sort of action, but um, the action doesn't necessarily have to be like to tell other people that the rapture's tomorrow. Like we were just at friend's house yesterday who were believers, and I didn't mention anything about it. Not because I didn't think they would believe it or that they would entertain the thought, but it's just like they're fine. Like, should you assume that? I don't know, but I'm like, well, they believe in Jesus, and we all love Jesus. Like, that's not. It's like it's not. It's not. It's extra information for those who have a heart to know information. It's not. I think people think that you can't know the day because it would totally change. And I understand, yeah, it would. If you knew the day that Jesus was going to come and take everybody, um, which just my husband said that the other day, and I was like, oh wow, that'd be terrible. Like not necessarily the day of the rapture, but like the day that you die, anything. If God told you that, then you would just live for yourself until you knew the day was coming up, and then you'd clean up at the very end. And it would be like you would make a mockery out of the whole thing. And I was like, oh wow, people would totally do that. Like it didn't even dawn on me for some reason that was exactly what would happen. But I think that if you put the entire thing into a faith, when you add faith, that changes its entire dynamic. It's just like when Jonah went to those people. Jonah went to the Ninevites. He told them, period, point blank, like what God was going to do and he was planning to do if they didn't change their ways. But they had to then believe that was true. So unless, yeah, if it was understood and everyone believed in God and God literally wrote the day in the sky, then yeah, you would have to worry about people just doing whatever they wanted clear up until the moment. But when there's faith involved, like do you not get that? Do you get that? Like faith changes the nature of the test. Because on some level, and I'm trying to quickly scan how I know this, like there's some story in the Bible that is pointing me to this, or the parable maybe. I think it's the parable of the shrewd manager. On some level, God's going to admire that you're like, oh, well, this is the day. God said this is the day. Well, I'm going to just do this just in case. Like, if it was true, oh gosh, this is going to get muddled because it's like, it's just now, I don't really know how to say that. Okay. Let's say that he's telling you the day and it's true. Like, this is the day you're going to die. Let's just use that. This is the day you're going to die. And he's not playing around. That is really real. Let's say that you believe that and you make a game plan. You're like, well, I'm going to just do all this crap until like, I'll give myself like, 24-hour or 36-hour window just in case something, whatever. And you decide to live all the way up until the day. God's going to go, he's actually going to admire it. That, like, I don't know if you know that about, he's going to admire it because you believed him. Now, the reason why that is dumb in reality is because you don't actually know. Because God doesn't promise you your days. So, like, there's another parable where there's a guy that, he loads up his silos full of whatever, of meal or corn or whatever that you put in silos. I don't know. I'm not a farmer. And he's storing up. He's breaking down in one barn or whatever to build a bigger one. And it says, you fool, don't you know your life is required of you tonight? Like, you did all of this. So it only becomes foolish to live however you want without regard to God until it's like, well, I'm not going to die till I'm 80. I mean, this is what people are actually doing. People aren't doing the way that God would want it to be done. If it was true, they're doing it the wrong way. So they're like, well, I'm not going to die till I'm 80. So I'm going to just live. It's like, he's like, I never said that. Who said that? You were going to live till you were 80. So, I'll sleep when I'm dead. It's like, you could be dead playing around. Like, that's why that's foolish, is because he never said. If he said it, then it would be wise. If he told you what the day was, then it'd be wise. But since he didn't, it's stupid. That's the only thing that makes it wise. That's the only difference. The only difference is that he didn't actually say. So we assume like the thing that I just said that I thought was really deep, and now I'm changing my mind on, that if God just told us today, we would just live however we want, and we would, but that assumes that we're going to believe that information, or that God would have set it up to where God would be known, but he has not. He set it up that he's invisible. So if you have faith in him, that trumps literally everything else. You having faith in him and believing and following what he said. Like, oh my gosh, that just occurred to me. Like, you could be a terrible person. Like the shrewd manager. The parable of the shrewd manager is like, he knew that the debt and all this stuff was going to be required of him, or he was going to get thrown into jail or something. I'm not going to look it up. I don't have time for that. Or I do, but I'm just not going to. He was like he owed a lot of money, or he was just a terrible person, and so he was going to get thrown into prison. So right before he goes into prison, or he knows he's about to get punished, maybe I'm mixing like that and a movie, because I'm like, I don't think that's what it was. But anyway, so he goes and finds everyone that owes him money, and he's like, listen, I'm slashing your debt in half. Here, you just owe me this. Don't pay, you like whatever. So he knew he was about to get fired. So he curried favor with everybody that he could curry favor with, so that when he got fired, they wouldn't tear into pieces. And Jesus doesn't really say much about it besides, that's a shrewd guy. He knows what he's doing. And like, that's the parable. And then he moves on. And you have to sort of like, okay, what are we talking about here? But what he's saying is like, listen, he believes the information and he acted accordingly. So when we believe God, we believe what he said, and then we do something like as a cause of that information, you're doing what every believer is doing. Like you're doing exactly what every person has done who has pleased God. That's literally all it is. You're always going to be right side up if you believe what God. It doesn't matter that you do that. It doesn't matter if you believe that God says, listen, I'm coming on this day, and the last thing you do is like, well, let me get this thing figured out, and then let me do my last line of Coke or whatever, and then I'm going to just watch the clouds. That's technically right. That's technically right. And you might think, oh, well, you can get away with doing that. No one does that because they don't believe God. That's literally all he's asking y'all to do, and you won't even do it. He would love that. He'll take that all day. He's like, it counts. Let's go. It counts. Because guess what? You're all disgusting. Like, oh, you're going to judge. Oh, you did a line of coke before you got raptured? That's disgusting. Like, okay, well, put it in the landfill with all the rest of it. Like, you do know that we're all like, it's just a big landfill. We're going to sort through the landfill and see whose trash is what. What's that terrible smell coming from? It's like, it's a landfill. Come on, if you're coming. That literally just occurred to me, bro. If you are believing God's word and acting in faith, because it has to be faith, because you have to, like, he's made himself invisible. He's not riding a big old clock in the sky. He's just not going to do that. And I think that is for our benefit, because that's so that we can have any chance of making it, of having a good score, because we don't have a chance of making a good score otherwise. We don't have the capacity to do anything well, like, otherwise. It's like the faith is like it's like the thing on the bowling alley, on either side of the bowling alley thing, so that your ball doesn't go in the gutter. Yeah. So it doesn't matter what type of person you are. What are those things called? I would be able to think of the name anytime. Otherwise, I don't know. I'm getting old. I can feel the 40. Like, my thoughts are just vanishing. All the stuff I knew and all the information, I'm getting all these things mixed up that I never get mixed up. Band names, forget about it. I'm just like, it's embarrassing. But anyway, little guide rails. A guide rail is a guide rail. And so if you activate your faith, you might not get a strike, but your ball's not going in the gutter. You're not gonna get a 0. Well, you might not hit a pin, so my metaphor is falling apart. But I think that's correct. It's not really necessary for the sake of this conversation, really, but it kind of is. It kind of is. I gotta go back. I think I already said it. I don't think I need to reiterate it, but like, I just know it's like crazy. Like, wait, what? So I might need to say it more succinctly, but like, yeah, it's the faith that gives us any sort of leg up. It's the ability to, it evens the playing field for everybody. Everybody can have faith. Everybody can have faith. Not everybody can do the best, whatever. So if he's going to give everybody an equal shot, he's got to use things that we can all have: young, old, black, white, rich, poor, man, woman, etc., etc. So he's sticking to those things. I mean, when you think about it, really, like, even the things that you know for sure, like, it's like you had a near-death experience and you went to heaven, like, even that, there's a measure of faith to it. It's like when you come back, as long as you're here, you can't be, there's a measure that it could all be, you have to hold on to that, it for a fact. And it's not like there won't be tons of proof. And the proof is there for people who want to analyze it and be objective and honest about it. But it's only going to draw the people who are willing to be truthful and like all the good things that draw people into faith. So how can I wind this back down and make it relevant to the topic at hand? I mean, I guess I said all that to say that God can tell us anything. It's completely lawful and right, and He can tell us anything because it's not going to violate anything, because it's still going to be within the parameters of faith. It's going to be really silent and, or unassuming, invisible, whatever. And you're going to have to use other senses. You're going to have to use. It's going to rely on other internal things in your soul, things that we can all do as people, no matter what our station or where our lot in life. Those types of things. And so that's always how it's going to be. So nothing weird, nothing, I guess, unorthodox. Nothing unorthodox is happening when someone comes up with a rapture date. It's still hidden. You still don't know. You still can't know, technically, for sure. It's not that type of information. And it's not that type of information because it's faith based. Because faith is the thing that we all have, that we all can use. So that is the basis. That's the thing that he's using to get everybody a seat at the table. You have no excuse. This is not about you not having exposure, or you not being, having a Western view of whatever. We all have the ability to believe in something that is unseen. So that is the thing that he is using and will always use. Doesn't mean that he won't ever talk to you and you just got to stumble around blind. There's no reason for that. He can still talk to you and it still be faith. Because sometimes I get tripped up on that, because sometimes I'm so sure and it feels like I know this stuff, but it's really faith. It feels like, oh, this is obvious, and it's obvious. Don't you see that? And I think that I'm using knowledge, but it's just like faith and wisdom and all of the stuff that's just in me already, that's just there. And I'm just like, and I go, see, I can explain it to you plainly. I'm explaining to you, but then I have to use a metaphor. I can't explain it to you plainly, but it just feels so plain to me, but it's still faith. Because that's the only thing he's going to ever use while we're here. It can't be anything but that. Sorry, I was having a real-time epiphany, so sorry, but that's why it's like all muddled and weird. But yeah, so, and then what's also great is like the other side about it is like there's no penalty for not believing a particular piece of information in that moment. There's no penalty, but it's like it's like if you went to college and if you believed that you got in, if you believe that you can get that you were accepted, then you just go and you go to your classes. It's like, can you go to college on faith? Can you just show up? You're scared to show up on the first day of class because you think they're going to kick you out because you haven't done anything good. You didn't do the essay. You didn't do it, but you believe. It's the college of belief. It's Hogwarts. Okay. And you show up on the first day like, oh, they're going to kick me out. They're going to kick me out. And you go there and they're like, welcome. And you're like, oh my gosh, it worked. It's real. So then you go and you go, But then you skip a class and you skip a class. You don't go. There's no penalty. You didn't pay any money. You're there but like, do you really want to lose out on a diploma that you got by faith? Like, go to class. Go to class. Like, don't miss out on an education. So what happens is, it's like, yeah, you can, if you don't want that information, if it's too much for you, that's fine. If it's too advanced for you, that's fine. You're just not, that's just not where you're going to go. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. But literally don't, like, when you start missing out on whole, like, chunks of it, then it's like, okay, do you not want this at all? Like, if you can't even show yourself approved by the end of it, it's like, well, no, get out. It's like, well, God's not going to kick anybody out of college by faith. It's like, you didn't do anything. You didn't even show up. Like, you did better, like, showing up, cheating on the test, having somebody give you all the answers and showing up, and like, that shows that you want to be there more than you never showing up at all. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like an unseen work going on that you have to show for yourself by the end of it. Because this is not something you can fake your way through. You're not going to fake out God. You can fake your fake diploma here and try to be something that you're not, but you can't do that with God. So it's just like, what are you doing? You need to add a few, you need to drop out and come back or whatever. So you miss a year or whatever, just keep going, but don't just stop entirely. Don't have nothing to show for it. It's like, when the grace is that high and you still have nothing to show for yourself, it's like, well, what else is there to say? What's there to say? You're a dum-dum. Like, that's undisputable. Look what you did. Look at the evidence. You enrolled in free college. No one asked you to come up here. No one begged you. You're not required to do this. So you enrolled. We see you enrolled. And then you didn't go to a single class. Like, what are you trying? What are you doing? So yeah, I'm still trying to wind it down to this rapture thing, but yeah, like, you don't have to believe a date to show yourself that you're approved. I just want to, like, I'm trying to whittle down all of the different the things that cause all of the arguments and the backbiting and people getting lost in the sauce of this whole debate. It's like, okay, take that off the table, all this stuff that doesn't matter, because the more that we argue back and forth and we waste time arguing back and forth, it's like, time's running out. Here's what really matters. So now what's your answer? So while it's not important, while I won't shun you or condemn you for not believing in a particular day, just know that it doesn't violate anything of God. And at some point, you're going to have to get in the faith pool and start swimming around. And if you're in the last days, like, you really don't have that much time to reconcile yourself with it. Especially if you really believe that, then if we're in the last days, then what's your stance? Like, what are we doing? Well, I'm just going to live my life out till I'm dead. It's like, okay, that's not a last day. That's not what we're talking about. Then you're kidding yourself. I'm just going to retire, and you're thinking about the distant future. It's like, okay, well, that you're contradicting yourself. But also, like, yeah, it's very possible that God is just trying to have a normal conversation with you as a believer, as part of his church, and you just keep shunning that because you don't think that that's plausible or real or biblical or whatever. And it's like, hey, like, you're about to miss it on a technicality of being just weird about your beliefs and never examining any of this stuff. Like, do some work before you go, because you're about to miss it because you can't understand that somebody is going to call you before they get here, because that's all this is. It's like you can't conceptualize that God's going to call you beforehand and telling you he's on his way. That's a polite thing to do. It's a, like, do you know anything about him? Like, you know that one verse that people keep saying over and over. It's like, do you really think that that's enough? Why do you think that's enough? Like, that's that's upsetting, and you really can't tell a Christian, like, hey, that's, you're not doing this enough. You're not doing enough. Whatever. They're like, yeah, I am. I went to this church. Like, you can't. So you just got, if you can't get you can't get this stuff working up here, uh it's like, let's carry this out to the end, friend. Like, what do you think is going to happen? It's like, you haven't even thought about what's going to happen. You're supposed to be in the end times. You believe it's the last days. You don't think God is going to talk to you. You don't think God's going to reveal the date. You haven't thought anything about what's going to happen, and you think you're going to be ready. You don't even think that there's any readiness to be had. You think that's just the thing that people say. What does it mean to be ready? Something spiritual that I'm sure is fine because I got baptized. It's like, so, yeah, it's going to not be a lot of people. God, Jesus has already said. But when you break this stuff down, you can see why has nothing to do with you being a bad person. It's like, you don't believe God. You didn't believe God, and so therefore you didn't obey him because you didn't believe the word in the first place. You didn't even do the two things that he asked of every person. It's not keeping any one of us from being able to do that. There's nothing in the world that is. So, and you're a believer. You should be up on top of the list of doing that, and you didn't do it. So, he can't. It's unfortunate, but it's like, I can't have you coming in here. You didn't do anything. I can't credit righteousness to you because you didn't even believe what I said. Because if you believe what I said, there would be these actions. Even if it was just, okay, let me get one last hurrah in before he comes. It's going to be soon. I don't know. But, he'd probably send you a dream and tell you, like, hey, but you're, like, not even on the same wavelength with him if you're not even believing. It's like the littlest crumb that you can possibly give him. It's like, dude, that's why it's so insulting when you don't have that. It's like, it's the only thing you can give him. He lowered it down to the only thing that we could give him, which is that. And it's like, did you bring your faith? He's like, I don't have it with me. It's like, oh God, come on. Like, that's literally my pet peeve, dude. And then, but can I please? It's like, I don't have it, but I didn't bring the crumb, but please, can you please just let me in anyway? It's like, oh my gosh. You guys, humanity just, dude. All right, so I think I'm done with that. I might have to do a third one, but I think I pretty much wandered my way around that. If you listen to this whole thing, dude, I know it's my mom. Hi, Mom. She's the only person. All right, y'all. Yeah, that's it. I'll probably do another one. It's just between now and tomorrow. Oh yeah, I'm probably gonna get some major stuff going on. That's just my prediction. So, all right, let me freaking press the end button.